Miami Grand Prix is one of the newer tracks in Formula One, and F1 23 is only the second official Formula One game that it's appeared in. The Miami Grand Prix is up this weekend on the F1 calendar, so I thought it's about time I produce a track guide. Now, Miami is a fast street circuit with a few rather technical sectors. It's a circuit that rewards maximising your momentum through some of the mid to faster corners, while utilising smooth braking and throttle inputs to avoid any harsh and unwanted reactions from your car. Now, I'm going to run through a complete track guide for F1 23. I'll show you a hot lap with the best racing line, certain things to look out for, and a few tips to help you improve your lap time. Then I'll show you our recommended car setup for Miami. Now, to give you a reference point on what qualifies as fast lap around Miami in F1 23, the current time trial record is just under a 1 minute 26. Now, if you're aiming to be in the top 5% of drivers, you should be aiming for about a 1 minute 27.3, and a relatively average lap time is the mid 1 minute 29 second mark. You can see all of these lap times on the Track Titan app, which is one of the apps I'm using to actually help me improve my speed and track my telemetry. In Track Titan, you can compare your lap time with faster drivers to see kind of different racing lines, different braking throttle inputs, and see where you can improve. I do have a code for Track Titan in the description, which will give you 50% off any membership and also an extended free trial period. Now let's jump right into the track guide and see how we get on. Now, the first corner around Miami is a slow right-hander, which requires you to brake from a really high speed down to around 100 kilometers an hour, hitting third gear. Now, you should approach with your car positioned far left and your left wheel over the blue paint. Your braking point is around 100 meters and can be easily spotted by this red and white curb. As soon as you hit the curb, hit the brakes while keeping your car positioned as far left as possible without going completely off track, which can be quite dusty. You'll want to brake hard for most of the braking zone and shifting down to third, whilst trailing off the brakes just before you reach the corner apex. As soon as you've released all brake pressure, reapply the throttle even before you hit the apex. Drift out wide, but not all the way to the left of the track on the exit, otherwise you will be out of position for turn 2. Quickly turn left and ride over the left-hand curb while lifting slightly on the throttle. Going full throttle through here will compromise your line into turn 4, so a slight lift can help you maintain better balance in the car. Then follow the track's curves and keep the throttle planted through the longer right-hand corner. The next few corners all kind of merge into one and aren't too dissimilar to the S's around Suzuka. On the approach to turn 4, follow the track whilst keeping your car positioned far right. Again, you can dip a wheel over the painted blue markings to maximise the track width. Just after the 50 meter board, you'll want to lift slightly on the throttle and even apply a small amount of brake pressure to rotate the car. Try and hit that left-hand apex early to maintain your corner speed. As you progress through the corners, you'll want to balance the throttle and brake as you turn the car left to right, and your speed should start to bleed off. You can shift right down to 5th gear just before hitting the apex of turn 5, and then lift slightly at the turn 6 apex while aggressively positioning your car over the curbs. Then drift far wide on the exit into turn 7. Now, this corner follows similar principles to the tight turns 9 and 10 at Bahrain. You want to keep your steering as open and straight as possible whilst braking. Don't apply too much brake input, only around 40 to 50%, otherwise you do run the risk of locking your inside wheel. By the end of the red and white curbs on the outside, you should have released your brake pressure and looking directly at the inside apex. Increase your steering input while starting to accelerate towards the apex, aiming to just miss touching the inside curb. If you do this, it kind of risks pushing your car out wide and perilously close to that right-hand wall. Accelerate hard out of this corner while straightening your car, as there is a high-speed section up next with DRS, making it a great place to overtake. Mastering corner exit out of turn 7 and 8 is crucial to setting up this straight, so practice getting on the throttle early. Turns 9 and 10 aren't really corners at all, just slight kinks and bends in the road, so follow these as close to the inside as possible. As you approach turn 11, position your car to the right of the circuit, once again over that blue painted strip. You should be looking out for the bridge that spans across the circuit, as this is your braking point. At the bridge, hit the brakes hard and keep the car as far right as you possibly can. Just when you pass the 50 meter board on the right of the track, start to release the brake pressure and slowly turn in towards the apex. This corner is tight, so keep trailing off the brakes right up until you hit the apex. You can ride over this inside curb, but not too much as it can throw you offline. Shift right down to third gear and aim for around 105 to 110 km an hour at the apex. Start accelerating right after the apex, ensuring you don't apply too much throttle input, as this is a pretty high traction zone and you can actually break traction at the rear of the car if you're too aggressive. As soon as you throw your car right into the entry of turn 12 and you reach the inside curb, lift off the throttle completely and try to hug the inside line all the way through the corner. You can apply a touch of throttle or brake to keep your car rotated and your minimum speed high if needed. Stay in third gear all the way through this sequence until you start accelerating and open up the throttle. Try to straighten the car up before applying 100% throttle and don't drift too far left on the exit of turn 12. Accelerate hard into turn 13, getting as close to the inside wall as you dare. This will help keep your car as straight as possible in the next braking zone. As soon as you pass turn 13, you should start applying braking input while allowing your car to run wide and right over the right hand curb. As this sequence is so slow, don't brake too aggressively and downshift to third gear. You should try to modulate the brake pedal and position your car ultra aggressively on the entry to turn 14. You can't really get any track limit penalties here, so hop right over that inside curb. Apply the smallest amount of throttle as you hop the curb and quickly start to turn right. At the apex of turn 15, again, jump over the orange curb, but this time ensuring that your left wheel stays on the track. This section of track is incredibly clumsy, but stick with it as driving up and over the curbs is the fastest route. Remember to modulate your throttle pressure throughout this sequence while never applying too much. Focus then on positioning your car as far right as possible. You can give a little blip on the throttle before releasing it and turning left into turn 16. Apply a small amount of brake pressure as you rotate the car right around the start of the red and white outside curb. Apply full left lock on the steering and try to get close to that inside curb as you can. Again, don't brake heavily on the entry, just enough to slow you down. As soon as the inside curb disappears from view, start accelerating and open up your steering. Get as close as you can to the right hand wall on the exit and accelerate hard as soon as the car is straight and you're in the clear. The following straight is another DRS zone and overtaking opportunity, so once again, focus on maximising your corner exit. As you approach the final corner sequences, focus on your braking point. Keep your car far right and keep an eye out for the 100 meter board hanging over the track from the right hand side. Just before reaching this, apply 100% brake input until you're just about past the 50 meter board. Then start to trail off the brakes and start to rotate in towards the inside apex. A slightly wider line through turn 17 can be beneficial, as this can stop you spinning up your tyres on the corner exit. Apply as little steering input as you can get away with on the entry to this corner, as the corner exit is quite wide and generous. Accelerate early while aiming for that right hand wall, using the entire width of the track. This acceleration zone can make the rear of your car quite lively, so keep your throttle input smooth while trying to straighten your car as fast as possible. It's then simply a case of following the curves of the track while accelerating across the finish line. Now, for the car setup, you'll want to keep things pretty well balanced for an optimal car setup around Miami in F1 23. My recommended aero setup would be slightly on the lower downforce side. However, you'll need to keep it high enough so you aren't constantly sliding around through those faster corners. And also focus on a more front-focused aero setup to reduce understeer. You can see here I've gone with 21 and 20 on my wing angles. The transmission I've kept pretty low, and then the suspension geometry and suspension setup are also pretty balanced. I've put an emphasis on a slightly softer car with a less aggressive geometry setup. Then the brakes kind of go with your preference, but I like 156. And then for the tyres, you'll want to lower them down quite a lot. I've gone with the minimum you can get away with on the front pressures and then pretty low on the rears as well. This will just help manage your tyre wear throughout a race around Miami. I'll leave a link in the description for this car setup so you can go and copy it over if you need to. And I've also got my referral link in the description for Track Titan, which again will give you 50% off any membership and also an extended free trial period. Track Titan is what I use to see my throttle and brake traces, which you could see in the video earlier. And it's really helpful for comparing your laps, seeing where you're fast, seeing where you're slow, and comparing against other drivers. But for now guys, enjoy this track guide, enjoy the Miami car setup, and I'll see you on track.